Hello, this is Dennis Richmond. We call them heroes, and very often they are. They are the firefighters, the police officers, the paramedics who keep us safe every day, sometimes even save our lives. But at what price? Sometimes they die or are injured in the line of duty, but even more often, they say they're emotionally scarred by the things they see and the burdens they bear. On this edition of A Second Look, we will meet some ordinary people who have had to deal regularly with extraordinary situations, and in the process, found it was not just time for them to give help, but to receive it as well. We begin with this report by Channel 2's Bob McKenzie.
They're called first responders, the people who go in when everyone else is trying to get out. They're not supposed to be afraid or to be horrified by things they see, and if they are, they're not supposed to show it. It's a recipe for deep emotional damage. Jim Wattenberger has retired now, but 29 years of firefighting took their toll.
I've seen hot air balloons hung up in high-tension wires with 8 people electrocuted, to SIDS deaths with infants in the middle of the night. But it starts building up on you. And before this incident, I went to a SIDS death, which was a rare occurrence for me out in a rural area. But I got there in time to begin CPR on this infant. And as I'm doing CPR on the infant and doing mouth-to-mouth, I was knocked to the floor by a metal folding chair by the mother who thought I was hurting her baby.
But the incident that broke Jim Wattenberger happened in August 2001. As a veteran firefighter for the California Department of Forestry, he was in charge of quelling a runaway fire in Mendocino County. It was a big fire, calling on all the resources of CDF, including airplanes dropping chemical retardants.
The air tankers are flying overhead in the normal pattern, and out of the corner of my eye, I can see 2 air tankers approaching in the normal air pattern, and out of the corner of my eye, I see another flash, and I looked up, and an air tanker was going the opposite direction.
Wattenberger was on the ground when 2 of the planes collided, and one of the 2 planes began coming to pieces in midair and plunging toward him.
His plane was broken up, but as he's approaching me and the other fellows that were standing next to me, it was obvious you could see him moving in the cockpit as he's getting closer and closer. I kept eye contact with the pilot as he was approaching, and he hit the ground about 100 feet from me. And so I had followed him from the impact in the air to unfortunately, his death in the ground, and was blasted, through the air. And it's 3 years, but the nightmares have gone away, and all those things. But, I was thrown through the air and the ensuing fireball, and I survived the impact, and then I thought I was going to burn to death, and then the debris fell out of the sky, and was hitting all around me and those type of things.
We have multiple fatalities. No possible way of survival.
Wattenberger picked himself up and went back to work, directing crews to fight the ground fire caused by the crash and continuing to fight the original fire. But inside, he was hurting.
Within a number of hours, I had several fits of rage, and I'm a pretty easygoing guy, But it helped picking up a stick and go just beat the hell out of an oak tree out in the woods.
But it wasn't enough. Over the ensuing months, Wattenberger found that he would start weeping uncontrollably or fly into a fit of anger. His wife felt he'd become a different person. His life was dissolving. He was in the kind of downward spiral that has led some first responders into chronic alcohol addiction or even suicide. Fortunately, he found this place first. West Coast Post-Trauma Retreat in Inverness is an intervention program started by an ex-cop and a police psychologist to rescue police officers and firefighters from post-traumatic stress syndrome.
I was one of those people that looked at psychiatrists and clinicians of the mental health field kind of like attorneys and car salesmen. I mean, to be a little humorous about it. You know, I don't like dealing with those folks, and I don't need those folks. And once I went through my situation, my incidents, I realized that their place in life is ever as great or greater than the emergency room physician or any of those life-saving personnel that you come in contact with.
Wattenberger checked in for 5 days of live-in therapy conducted by volunteers, people who had been first responders themselves.
When we say, yes, we have something to offer, it is because we understand the culture, we understand what people have gone through, and they know that when they come here that they can trust us.
Because the therapy is confidential, we can't take you inside, but Jim Wattenberger says it saved his life. He described arriving home to his wife at the end of the week.
So when I drove in the driveway, she could see my teeth because I was smiling. And I don't normally smile a full smile. So she knew something great had taken place.
Jim Wattenberg's story had a happy ending. But the ranks of first responders always include the walking wounded who are still looking for a way to recover.
And they don't want to have to admit, first of all, that they might need some help. And secondly, I think that the stigma is that they are depended on by their peers. And if the peer feels that they can't be depended on, that they have a particular problem, then it puts an additional stigma on them, and so therefore they're reluctant to seek help.
You know, fire service is very traditional, and it takes time to break through those attitudes. And, you know, I was the first person from CDF to go through this program, and it helped me so tremendously in many ways that I can't even describe, that I'm an advocate for the program.